All right, so we're ready to go. Now, again, this will be posted on the course selection website, and one of the cool features is it will have a transcription, which can be translated into like pretty much any language. So if you need that, that'll be a resource for you. So that'll be really cool. So welcome everybody. My name is Justin Donahue. I am the curriculum AP at Duluth High School, which means I'm in charge of all the scheduling and making sure that all the kids have a complete schedule. And we are starting our course selection process, actually started today at the middle schools. And it's a really exciting time, but I know that it's a kind of, there might be a lot of questions because this is new and this process of selecting courses is very different at the high school than it is at the middle school. So we're looking forward to having all you guys next year and seeing all these students and welcome them to be a part of our family. But let's talk about how to get them some schedules. So the first thing I want to make sure that everybody is aware of is our course selection website. Hopefully when information was sent out about this meeting, I asked the middle school APs to also include a link to the website so that y'all could start looking at it. But the easy way to get to it, it is linked from our Duluth High School website, but there's a bunch of clicks and things like that you have to get around. So the easy way to get to it is using the bit.ly/DHS course selection. And I'm going to just go ahead and go there now so we can look at it. If I can get this to work. bit.ly/DHS course selection, just like that. And that'll take you to our course selection website. And for most of you, we're going to be looking at Rising 9th grade. If you have an older student, you can check out the Rising 10th to 12th as well. But we'll click on Rising 9th grade, and there's a lot of really good resources on this website. Let me zoom in a little bit. So first of all, there's a video here from Dr. Ackers. Dr. Ackers is awesome. She is our 9th grade assistant principal. She does all things 9th grade, and you guys are going to love her. She is a Duluth parent herself. I think her son is graduating this year, so she's sad about that. But he's been with us all the way through 9th grade, and she knows what that whole process is. And again, will be a great resource for y'all. I'm not going to play her video now, but if you want to check it out on the website, it is there. The course selection timeline is linked. And this is a very good resource so that you kind of know where we are in the process. Let me zoom in a little bit. So right now we're doing this Rising 9th grade parent meeting that is happening, obviously, as we speak. And then this week, your students' teachers are having conversations with your students about which classes they're going to take next year, whether they're going to be in honors language arts or accelerated language arts or regular language arts. They're having those conversations now. And then they're going to let me know by the end of the week where the students should be placed for their core classes. And at that point, I will go through and register them. You'll be able to see all those recommendations in February. So if we go down here, February 2nd through 11th is the elective course requests are available for students. And you will also be able to see what core classes they have been placed in as well at that time. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there. Oh, I guess I should also mention, I see some people using the chat, which I very much appreciate. Bit.ly asking for the bit.ly, so I'm going to throw it in there. If you have a question, please put it in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on it between admitting people and checking out the chat and doing the conversation. So I'm sorry if it takes me a second to see it. But again, if you have a question, please put it in the chat. At the end, when we're done, if I can figure out how, I'll allow mics to be unmuted. If you want to come on and ask me a question, I'm more than happy to answer them. But we're going to wait till the end to do that just to avoid interruptions and things like that. So, so February 2nd through 11th, that is when your students will do their part of the course selection process, where they're going to select their electives and they'll verify their core classes that they've been enrolled in. And February is a really exciting time. At Duluth Middle on the 2nd, we're going to do our Rising Ninth Grade Showcase. That is where all of our ninth grade elective teachers come and just talk very briefly about their classes to the students. They pull them into the cafeteria and we kind of do an assembly. And it's just a really awesome way for the kids to get an idea of what their options are and make sure that they understand all their options. This elective fair is only for 10th through 12th. Please don't show up at the high school on February 3rd. We're coming to you on the 2nd, and at Coleman Middle, we'll be there on the 3rd as well. And we'll go through the Rising Ninth Grade there. Please, 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 I very much hope that all of you can make it to our Rising Ninth Grade meet and greet. That is an in-person event at Duluth High School. It'll be on February 4th at 5:30. We'll have all of our clubs and sports and activities will be there, so your students can go around and talk to them. Dr. Ackers will be there, and she'll do a whole presentation about the ninth grade experience and what the expectations are. All of our curriculum leads will be there, and you can talk to them if you have questions about courses and things like that. It's a really fun night. It's a great night. There's going to be door prizes. I know that Ms. Kinchin ordered a bunch of Rising our future Wildcat shirts that she's excited to give away as door prizes. So February 4th is going to be a really fun night. Please mark that on your calendar and be there if you can. But yeah, so the elective requests will go through the 11th. And then February 10th is another fun day when the kids will come to the high school and they'll get to tour some classes and stuff at the high school. And that'll be cool. So February is a really good time. That's the bulk of when this course selection stuff will be going on for your students. Then we've got a little break until April. By then, I should have everybody scheduled and you'll be able to see final course verifications and what electives the student hopefully will end up in. You never know. Over the summer, sometimes things do change a little bit, but you'll see more or less what classes your students will be in. I see some people saying they can't hear anything, but some people can. I guess make sure that you're not muted. For those of you who can't hear, because it seems like people can hear me. Let's see, I see something about permissive transfer students. Want to make sure that I'm not missing anything in the chat. Let me finish talking about the course selection, then I'll look at these chat questions. So again, final course verifications will be in April. Carnegie unit, I'm going to do a video about the Carnegie units, and we'll place that in April. That'll be closer to the Carnegie unit time. Basically, Carnegie units are if your students are taking a high school course right now in the middle schools, like physical science or biology, or I'm blanking, Spanish, algebra, any of these classes, you get high school credit for that. And I'll just talk a little bit about it. They've made that process much simpler than it used to be. Basically, you receive the credit automatically now, and you only have to opt out. And I'll talk a little bit more. And again, I'm going to save that till April when it gets closer to the time, and I'll post that on the website. But we'll talk a little bit about reasons why you might choose to opt out of the Carnegie unit and which students it may be a good idea for. And then May 20th is our last day of school. That's the deadline for those Carnegie unit forms. If you choose, and again, it's not really an acceptance form, now it's an opt-out form. And that's also if you want a reconsideration of placement, which we'll talk about in just a minute. I'll get to that. So there's a question about permissive transfer students. Yes, so permissive transfer students will go through this entire process, just like the students who live in district. And we will wait until that permissive transfer is approved, and then we'll put in all the course requests, but you're still going to go through the process. Really, on your end, it won't look any different. It's really just an extra step on my end where I keep all that stuff separate so that it's ready once the student's accepted, then I can put it all into the system. But on your end, the course selection process won't look any different for permissive transfer students. Difference between geometry and accelerated geometry. Let's come back to that. Confirm what will take place at Coleman Middle School on 2/3. So on February 3rd, basically during that time, all the students will get pulled into, there'll be like an assembly, and they'll pull them into the cafeteria. and our elective teachers are going to come, and they're going to have and they'll talk a little bit about each one of their classes so that the students understand what their elective options are. So that's happening on the 3rd. It's not a parent thing. There's no action item on your part. That is just all going to be for that'll be for the students, and it's part of their regular school day. When selecting courses, are we required to log in through the Bitly? No, we'll talk about how to select courses in a second. So we'll get to that. The Bitly is really just so that you can look at our classes and what's available. All right. So there was a question about geometry versus accelerated geometry. I want to come back to that and do sort of some of the curriculum questions towards the end. So I'm going to hold off on that, but I will answer that. Just don't let me forget. All right, so that's the course selection timeline, which again, we got to from the course selection website. This 9th grade course catalog, I would encourage you to spend some time with this. This is a great document. It will talk you through a bunch of stuff. We have a letter here from our principal, Cindy Kinchin. You can read about that. We've got a map of Duluth High School, the course selection timeline there, and then we talk about what students need in order to graduate. Basically, they need 23 units, and this outlines all that. There's stuff about summer health and PE if you're interested in that. We go through each of the different subject areas, language arts, and we talk through what the pathways for language arts look like, and that is in there. Math, we talk about the different math options and the pathway for math. So this is actually a good chance for me to answer that question. I'll go ahead and do it now. So there was a question about the difference between geometry and accelerated geometry. So this resource, if you have those kinds of questions, this document is a great resource for you, because you can come on here and look, and really the difference is the expected pathway for those students, right? Somebody asked, what document am I looking at? So again, from the course selection website, bit.ly/DHS course selection, it's this 9th grade course catalog document right here. In fact, I'll throw it in the chat. That is the document I'm currently looking at. So if I'm looking at a student in geometry, the expectation for that student is that they go to advanced algebra, then pre-calculus, and then do some kind of calculus their senior year. Whereas an accelerated geometry student, the expectation for that student is that they're going to do enhanced advanced algebra and AP pre-cal their 10th grade year, and then AP Calculus their junior year, and then some sort of advanced Calc 2 or dual enrollment through Georgia Tech their senior year. So that's kind of the difference. Now, if a student starts in geometry and they're one of the top geometry students, they can take this enhanced advanced algebra and AP pre-cal course and jump to this track. But accelerated geometry, the expectation is that the student is taking calculus, basically 2 years of calculus in high school. So that's going to be for your students who have aspirations to go to Georgia Tech or other engineering schools, major in STEM fields, things like that. That's going to be a good pathway for them. Geometry, again, although you can still do that kind of stuff, even if you started geometry and only take 1 year of calculus. But this is going to be for your upper level math kids who really get into math and enjoy math. So as we go through this, again, there's stuff about the science pathways and what those look like, recommended science pathways, social studies, there's stuff in here. I'm going to take a minute here to give a plug for world geography while I'm here. World geography is not a required class in high school. It is considered an elective for 9th graders. The only requirements are world history, U.S. history, and Gov and Econ, which they do 10th, 11th, and 12th grade years. But world geography is a really fun class. We've got the best world geography team in the county. I really believe that. And it is a great class to get students prepared for success further on in high school. I was just talking about those kids that really like math and are kind of math nerds. That was me. So I, of course, did the math. And I looked at kids that took world geography and how they did in their other classes compared to the kids that didn't. And kids who took world geography were much, much more likely to be successful in world history. They were they were much more likely to be successful in their 10th grade language arts class, and they were even more likely to be successful in chemistry class 10th grade year than kids who didn't. So world geography is a really good class. I strongly recommend it for any kid, especially if your student is planning on being on this bottom track, the AP World History, AP US History, AP Gov, and Macro. That student really needs to take AP Human Geography if they can make it fit in their schedule, because that's going to help prepare them for being on that AP trackway. But again, I recommend geography for all students, and we have found we have data to support that it helps the students further on. All right, before we get into the electives part of this, I'm going to check the chat real quick. I'm sure I missed some stuff. Yeah, so there's a question about that math class, that enhanced advanced algebra and AP pre-cal class. That is very similar to a lot of your students probably right now are in enhanced 8th grade math and algebra. So they're doing all of 8th grade math and all of algebra in 1 year. That enhanced class, if I go back to it, that enhanced advanced algebra AP pre-cal is all of advanced algebra and all of AP pre-cal being taught in 1 year. So it is very fast-paced, it is very rigorous, and it's going to require students to really enjoy math and be really competent in math. Let's see. All right, I put the document in there already. Sports. I'll get to sports in a second. That is in this document. So such a thing as college prep classes. All of our classes are considered college prep. So the base level is a college prep class. We prepare all of our students for college. So everything is college prep. Explain the difference between CP versus honors versus accelerated. Is there a way to take AP World Geography in 9th grade? So in 9th grade, it's called AP Human Geography. And that is AP World Geography. It's the same thing. And yes, I definitely recommend that class. So CP versus honors versus accelerated, that's a language arts thing. So again, we'll look at the language arts sequence, and that helps us understand what the difference is. If a student is in the CP, which stands for college prep, language arts class, then the expectation is they do Lit and Comp 1, Lit and Comp 2, American Lit, British Lit, or Multicultural Lit their senior year. And that is the pathway they're expected to be on. If they do honors, the expectation is they do honors Lit and Comp 1, honors Lit and Comp 2, honors American Lit, and then they have a bunch of options their senior year, including AP language arts classes. If they're in the accelerated, the difference is that they stay accelerated, they do AP seminar or accelerated Lit and Comp 2 their sophomore year, and then they're starting their AP language arts classes junior year and then doing it senior year as well. So it's kind of like in math when we had that accelerated geometry, they are expected to take 2 AP calculus classes. Our accelerated language arts kids are expected to take 2 AP language arts classes. So if your student is a really good language arts student, but only is planning on doing one of those classes, then the honors track might be a better track than the accelerated track. So it just sort of depends on what their goals are, what their passions are, that kind of thing. All right, good questions. Let's finish this out. So here is the electives portion. And if we go through this, by the way, there's information here about the counselors, and I'll show this to you guys later, but contact information if you want to reach out to people on the 9th grade team. They're all listed down here. Dr. Ackers, the counselors, Mr. Miller and Ms. McClammy, our special ed case manager, Ms. Mosley, all those would be great resources. But here we talk through the different electives, and these are all the 9th grade elective options, and there's a little description and contact information for the teacher, email if you want to reach out to the teacher to find out more. Fine arts, academic electives, there we talk a little bit about geography. World languages, we do Spanish, French, and Spanish for native speakers are the 3 world languages we currently offer. Our ROTC program, there's information down here. These are all of our department chairs. If you want to know more about the world language department, you can reach out to Ms. Corley and she'll be happy to answer your questions. So there's a lot of good contact info here. Our athletic director is listed. But then the very last page of this, for the person who asked about athletics, is all of our coaches. So if you have a question about when is football tryouts, you can email Coach Jones right here. So it's got all of our sports teams, and then the contact person for those sports teams is listed here on the very last page of this document. So if you have athletics questions, those are great people to reach out to. And again, all of this is in from the course selection website under the ninth grade course catalog. So this ninth grade course catalog is a really great resource that I strongly recommend you take some time and look at. All right, other stuff on this website. There are videos about reviewing recommendations where I kind of walk through that process and what it looks like. There is course offerings where you can come over here and find out more about our different course offerings. So for ninth grade, there's videos of all of our cores. So if you want to hear from our algebra teacher, Miss McKay, you can click on algebra, and Miss McKay will talk you through it, and she is awesome. Or that's Dr. Bowman, actually, but she's one of our algebra teachers, and she'll talk you through that she'll talk to you about algebra and what that looks like, and all these other, it's all linked here, so you can see videos about these things. And down here underneath that are all the electives. So if you want to find out more about the theater program, which we have one of the best theater programs around, you can go to Fine Arts and then click on theater electives, and you can hear from Miss Carter all about theater stuff, right? So we got lots of good videos here that our teachers have spent some time on for you to look around in. And that was under course offerings. Summer health and PE, we're trying to finalize what that's going to look like. Once I have that, I'll place that here. That Carnegie unit recording I'll put. And right here, you can see this coming soon. After this, this is where you can find the parent meeting information. This recording I will place right there. So a couple of questions in the chat that I'm going to answer. How many electives will the students be able to take? So there are 3 classes that are required, right? They take biology of some kind or chemistry if they're in biology now. They take their Lit and Comp 1, and they take algebra or geometry. So those are the 3 requirements. And then they have 3 other classes to fill. So they have 3 other electives that they can fill in. Now, I recommend that one of them be geography, right? The social studies elective. And then after that, they still have 2 more classes, right? So they can do health and personal fitness. They can do any of these CTE classes. They can do theater. They can do band. They can do orchestra, chorus, all those kinds of things. Yes, and that answers kind of the next question. We do not do a block schedule. We are on a 7-period day. They have 6 academic periods and 1 lunch period every single day. If a kid plays soccer, does that count as PE? No, they still have to do health and personal fitness separate, even if they're on a sports team. That doesn't count as a sports. All right, so that is the course selection website, which again, I would just recommend spending some time looking around and making sure before we get to February that your kids know which classes they are interested in doing. So website resources, I think we touched on all those. I don't think I missed any of it, so we'll keep on moving. So once we get to February, the student course selection process will look like this. So number 1, you can do that now. That's looking through the website materials, determining what classes you want to take. Number 2, that is happening now. They're having conversations with their current teachers about the course selection process. The week of January 26th is when we will provide homeroom class or homeroom training for the students, where they will learn about how to use the website or how to use the tool that they're going to use to register. Again, that Rising 9th grade meet and greet, we talked about that. February 4th, please come if you can. And then once we get to February 2nd, this is where they're going to find the elective registration tool. It is going to live on their landing page on Student View. Now, y'all's will look different than mine, but I'll show you what mine looks like. There is a Duluth High School landing page that looks like, let me give it a second, it's signing me in, but it looks like this, right? Now, you will have a Duluth Middle School or Coleman Middle School landing page, but that is where this form is going to live. And it's through a program called Condatly. And this is actually a good example because we have at the high school a Condatly sitting right here. And this is what your student will see. When they go to that landing page, the registration tool will be embedded in the page right here at the top. And they'll go through. Now, again, this is an access testing. It has nothing to do with course selections, but the course selection tool will be here when your student goes on February 3rd. It'll be available for them. So it will live on the landing page for your school, either Coleman or Duluth Middle. And let's see, hold on, sorry. Let's get back into this. And then the final step is to verify course selection. So what that tool is going to look like is this. So the student they will be logged in already, so they're not going to have to put in their student ID. It knows who they are, and it will automatically load in their student ID, and their name will be loaded in at the top. And then at the very top, it will show their core classes and priority electives. So everything that's happening now, this week, where the teachers are talking to them about which core classes they're going to take, I'm going to put that into the system, and then on February 3rd, you'll be able to see what was selected here, right? So they'll be able to look and see, oh, my student was recommended for accelerated geometry, biology, 9th LA, Spanish 2. And your students should know this because the teachers are having conversations with them. So hopefully this won't be the first time you find out which classes they're in, because your students should have had that conversation with their teacher. Now, let's say you are looking at this and your student has decided, you know what, I asked my science teacher to sign me up for biology, but I think I'm ready for an extra challenge. I could do honors biology. They could either go talk to their teacher about it, and their teacher I'll have a special form for the teachers to submit changes, or there is a reconsideration of placement form that is linked here that you can download, fill out, and email to the curriculum office at duluthhscurriculum@gcpsk12.org. So if you want to make changes, you can do that at that time. So it's a good time to verify. Let's see, I'm going to come back to some of these questions a little later. Yeah, I'm going to come back to some. There's a lot of curriculum questions that I'll come back to in just a second. I want to finish talking about the tool, and then we'll jump into that. Something else you might see right underneath this, if your student is in band, orchestra, chorus, or ROTC currently, they're going to see a message that looks like this. Because any student that is in band, chorus, orchestra, or ROTC, we expect them to continue that at the high school level. It's considered a track and a pathway. So those students are expected to continue on, and they're going to automatically be registered for those programs at the high school. Now, you do not have to, obviously we're not going to force you to take a class that you don't want to take. But there is an option to say, I'm going to talk to my band director about not continuing in the program. So you click, your student will click one of these, either I plan to continue or I'm going to talk about not continuing. And anybody that says no, hopefully they'll make the initiative to talk to their band director or chorus teacher or whoever. But I compile that list and I send it to them so that they know who they are and they'll talk to the students about it. So then I see one question here. What if my daughter would like to join chorus? So that's going to be the next part of this tool, is the course selection portion. So this is the main part where the kids are making their course selections, and they're gonna rank their top 7 options. So there's going to be drop downs here, and they're going to click the drop downs, and they're going to rank again what their top 7 options are that are available. My disclaimer for freshmen is please make sure that you put a lot of thought into all 7 options, because when it comes time to assign electives, we start with seniors, then we go to juniors, then sophomores, then freshmen. So freshmen do sort of get the last bite at the apple there. Now, there are some classes that are mostly freshman classes that are going to be available. Your intro CTE classes, a lot of them are mostly freshmen. But sometimes I do have to go down to option number 7, especially if you're taking 3 elective classes. then I really, sometimes we got to go down to option 7. So please make sure that we're being thoughtful about this. I really hate it when a kid comes to me and says, "Why am I in this class? I never wanted this class." And then I pull it up and I say, "Well, you put it as number 6." And then they say, "Well, I was just clicking stuff. I didn't know." So take it seriously so that we can make sure that the students get classes that they actually want to be in, because they're going to enjoy it more and they're going to learn more if they actually want to be there. So please make sure that they go through that. So chorus would be one of these options. If you're not currently in chorus but want to take it, you would see that option here to select. Now, if you're currently in chorus, you will not see chorus as an option here because you're already in it. You'll get this message here that says you're currently in chorus. So if you're currently in chorus or band or ROTC, you won't see those options in the drop downs because you're already there. So you can think of these as more as like backups to those electives or something like that. But they'll rank their electives 1 through 7. They'll hit submit. After they hit submit, in a minute or two, if they refresh the page, they'll be able to see what they selected. It'll show up at the top of the form so that they can verify they did everything correctly. If something was wrong or they just changed their mind, they can fill it out again and resubmit. They can do that as many times as they want up until February 11th when the form closes. And at that point, it's locked in. So they have that time to kind of make changes and things like that. Does it help if they submit ASAP, or is order of submission not considered? No, order of submission is not a factor at all. They do not have to submit ASAP. Basically, once I get all the data, I compile it all, and then I randomize the students. I get a random list, and then I go through, and hopefully we have the capacity for everybody. But if we have a class that is overfull, then I go to the bottom of my random list and I start assigning them to their next elective options. So that's kind of the process, but it is completely random. It has nothing to do with what order that they do it in or when they submit. So please take your time. There's no benefit to doing it right away. I wouldn't recommend waiting till the last minute, but make sure that you've had time to think about it and make an informed decision. Let's see. So questions, if you have questions, yeah, this is my last slide. So if you have questions, again, you can reach out to me. That is my email address, Justin Donahue. Dr. Ackers, our 9th grade administrator, is all things 9th grade. So if you have questions about course selection and that process, I'm the guy to talk to. If you have questions about just sort of 9th grade day-to-day stuff, Dr. Ackers is going to be your best contact there. And then our 2 9th grade counselors, depending on the last name, A through L is Mr. Miller, M through Z is Miss McClammy. They can talk to you a little bit about maybe long-term goals and pathways for your students and things like that. So now I'm going to go through the chat here and I'm going to answer some of these other questions that we've had. If you don't want to stick around for question time, I completely understand. It's 7 o'clock. Feel free to head on out. But if you want to stick around and hear the answers to questions or ask questions, I'll stay on for a few more minutes. But again, thank you guys for being here. This is being recorded. It'll be posted on that course selection website. So if you need to revisit any of it, feel free to go back to that. But yeah, so let's check some of these questions. So can a student jump from the accelerated track back to the honors track? Yes, absolutely. If they're on the accelerated track, we may be able to identify that within the first couple weeks of school and move them back to an honors track if they're in a little over their heads. We try to do that early. But sometimes we wait until the end of the semester. Sometimes we wait until the end of the year before we kind of decide that maybe the honors track is a better path. But yes, they can jump from the honors to the accelerated track, and they can jump from the accelerated to the honors track. We want to make sure that students are placed properly and where they're going to be very successful. Is there any benefit to take PE over the summer before the year starts? Yes, a lot of our students do PE over the summer. And the benefit there is you have more elective options, basically. You got to do it at some point when you're in high school, and if you can take care of it, you've got room in your schedule to now take band and chorus and geography, right? It gives you more schedule flexibility, basically. So there is a benefit. Most of our, I wouldn't say, I don't know if I'd say most, but a very good percentage of our students do the summer health and PE. And if your student isn't somebody who will enjoy being in PE every day, it's a good way to get that PE credit taken care of and then not have to worry about it. So that is there's definitely a benefit there. Will we get notification when applications or permissive transfer is open for DHS close to the end of the school year, or would we be checking periodically? Yes. So in terms of the permissive transfer stuff, it's a year-to-year thing with the district. So we have to wait for them to approve our permissive transfer status for next year. Now they approved it this year, so hopefully they will approve it for next year. But it's sort of this, red tape thing. Once once that process is done, then we'll send out information about doing the permissive transfer at the high school level. I heard the students have to take at least one language for high school. How would that work? Yes. So basically, for graduation, they don't have to take any world language classes. But if they're going to go to college, colleges require at least 2 world language classes in the same language. So they sign up for Spanish 1 and then do Spanish 2, or they might be in Spanish 1 now and then they do Spanish 2 in ninth grade. And then they can do more if they want to. They can do Spanish 3, Spanish 4, AP Spanish. Again, same with French, same with Spanish for native speakers. There's 3 levels of that, but they have to do at least 2 levels in the same language for college entrance requirements. Now, there is one little loophole that if it had existed when I was in high school, I would have done it. And that is computer science. You can actually take 2 years of computer science and use that as your world language instead of Spanish, French, or anything else, which is, again, for your nerds like me, it's a good path, a good option. And colleges accept that. They're actually, the University System of Georgia are actually the ones that pushed for that to be allowed. So colleges are more than fine with it. AP Human Geography is an elective. So is there a way for a ninth grader to take AP World History? No, World History is sophomore year. They do that sophomore year. We don't allow ninth graders to do World History. They do geography if they're going to do a social studies, and then sophomore year they go into World History. When I recommend geography, is that regular or AP Human? Both. It depends on what level your student is comfortable with. Every level of geography, we saw improvement for those students their sophomore year in all of their core classes if they were in geography. So I recommend all levels of geography, CP Geography, Honors Geography, AP Human Geography. All of them are awesome. It's all the same teachers that are teaching that, and they're a great group of teachers, and they make it a really fun class. I definitely recommend it. So for electives, students give 7 options and they choose 3, or students choose their own electives. So the students are ranking their top 7 preferences, right? Now, in an ideal world, every student, if a student has 2 openings in their schedule, they get their top 2 options. If they have 3 openings, they get their top 3 options. In an ideal world, that's what we would do, right? Now, that it's not an ideal world. You get into a situation where some classes have too many students in it and we have to move some students out. So then we would go to their 4th option instead of their 3rd or whatever, right? Or we get to a point where, because of the way the schedule ends up being built, there's a conflict and there's just no way to make this elective work in their schedule because of their band class and their biochem class and things like that, right? So then we have to go to their next elective option. But in an ideal world, we are giving them the electives off the top of their list. And then if that doesn't work out, we go to the next thing on the list and just go down until we fill the schedule. Is biochem block still available, and is it concurrent or per semester? Yeah, so biochem is still a thing. Now at Duluth Middle, they're doing biology. They're actually teaching biology now. So those kids are going to go straight into chemistry. But from Coleman, those kids will do all of biology and all of chemistry in the same year. And it's by semester. So they do either all of biology first semester and all of chemistry second semester, or they do all of chemistry first semester and all of biology second semester. And all of that is taught at the honors level. It's very tough class. It's very rigorous. And the purpose of that is for the kids. The purpose of that is for students who want to get accelerated in science and take as many AP science classes as possible. Biochem allows them to do that. Also, again, the students at Duluth Middle who are in biology now, and if they take chemistry next year, they'll be at the same place. So all of those students would be able to take lots of AP science classes. Let's see, ninth graders take career like architectural drawing. So we don't teach an architecture class. We do have Foundations of Engineering, which has some intro CAD and engineering drawing stuff in it, and some like intro architecture stuff is a part of that engineering pathway. But yes, we have career classes in engineering, healthcare, and I'm going to forget some, but engineering, healthcare, audio visual technology, teaching as a profession, JROTC, marketing, and computer science. And hopefully I didn't forget any, but we do have career pathways, and those are great. I used to teach engineering back in the day. They're great pathways, and they're a great way for students to figure out if that's something that they want to do for their careers. It's really awesome. Does it help to get electives? Okay, I answered that. AP Human, yep, we talked about that. Parents meeting on Wednesday. No, there's no parents meeting on Wednesday. There is on February 4th. There's a parent meeting. Rising ninth grade meet and greet. That's in person at Duluth High School on February 4th. As far as I know, that's the next parent meeting, unless I'm missing something. Do they have lockers? Yes, they can buy lockers. They're not very expensive. Very, very few students use lockers. It's just the world we live in now. We really sell a handful of lockers every year. But it is an option. So if they want a locker, they can purchase a locker or, rent a locker. If we intend to do summer health and PE, so our students can have 3 electives. No, you can just sign your kids up for, if they're going to do summer health and PE, they just don't need to put that as one of their elective options. So they can go in and when they're ranking their electives, just don't put health and PE on there. And then we won't put them in that, and they'll take it over the summer. Deadline, again, this is February 2nd through 11th is the time frame where they're selecting their electives. Yeah, so main classes are that's happening right now. The core classes are being done right now. And then on February 2nd, then you'll go to that tool, which will be on your school's landing page, and you'll put in, you'll rank your elective options there. Yes. So core class registration is happening this week, and then the elective class registration begins on February 2nd. Do all students need to take one class of health and one of PE sometime between first? Doesn't matter when. So health and personal fitness are 1 semester classes. So you knock both of those out in the same year. And that is a graduation requirement. So at some point, they have to do both health and personal fitness. But again, it's one year. So they get that done. Most students do it either over the summer or get it done freshman year. Some put it off till sophomore year, junior year. I wouldn't really recommend that, but you can if you want to. The summer health and PE. So there's information about that on the website, I believe, or in this course catalog, I think. I'm trying to find it real quick. So we're finalizing the health and PE thing, but I thought I had like a sample timeline somewhere. I'd have to look around for it, but once we have the information for it, it'll be on here. I think it's like 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. Um, uh, I'm not sure exactly how long it is, though, to be honest with you. Language elective options: Spanish, French, and Spanish for native speakers. Spanish for native speakers could be an option for an elective class. Yes, absolutely. Um, can a student switch from between AP and honors? Yep, we talked about that. How many AP classes can a student handle per year from your experience? So I am also the AP coordinator at my school. So I do all the AP exam registration and all this kind of stuff. And it really just depends on the kid. Ninth grade only offers, there's actually two options in ninth grade. They can do AP computer science principles as a ninth grader, in addition to AP human geography. Both of those are pretty accessible, um, and are fine. 10th graders, that's where we get into the realm of they can do really just AP world history. And if they do the biochem block, then they could potentially start doing an AP science sophomore year. It's really the juniors and seniors where they start stacking up. We have some kids that do 6 AP classes in a year. And it really just depends on the kid and what they're capable of. I would recommend that you just be careful about trying to do too much, because we do see kids that get burned out, kids that um, just have a hard time coping because they have so many AP classes. And a lot of times it's not necessary. Think about what the end goal for your student is, where they want to go to college, what they want to major in. And maybe if they're going to be a STEM person, then they don't need both AP Lang and AP English Language and AP English Literature. Maybe they just take one of those, or vice versa, right? If they're going to be a language arts person, a humanities person, then maybe they don't need 2 years of AP Calculus, right? So I would just say, think about, even if they're capable, sometimes from a workload standpoint, they do they do get overloaded, and we have to be careful about that. But it really depends on the student. It's hard to say, and that's going to come from having a good relationship with the counselor, and being willing to have those conversations with the counselor will help a lot. Something about a meeting on Wednesday. I don't know anything about a meeting on Wednesday, but that's the second time I've heard that. So you guys double check that. It's not with me, but I'm not aware of anything on Wednesday. Summer Health and PE is not through Georgia Virtual School. It is locally created. It's a local thing. Um, if you take 2 years, oh, I'm glad somebody mentioned that. So the ROTC program, you actually have to do 3 years, but if you do 3 years in the ROTC program, that does satisfy the health and PE credit requirement. So if they do ROTC, they do not have to worry about health and personal fitness. They don't have to do it over the summer. It's taken care of. That's an excellent question. Thank you. So again, if they're ROTC, health and personal fitness is taken care of as long as they stay in the program. Yep, they can take health and PE this summer if they want to. 4 classes is this week. Yes, the health and PE does cost something. It's not a lot. And I wish I could find the information about it, because I had the previous. Oh, was that it? Yeah, so down here at the bottom, this is slide 6, is the information that we have. So this was kind of previous information, but we expect that it will be similar this year. So the personal fitness was 8 a.m. through 12 p.m. Health was 12:30 to 3:30, and it was $250 per course. Assuming they're doing both, that's $500. And that's all paid through Duluth High School. It's all digital format using Google Classroom, with Zoom meetings embedded. And it is Mondays through Fridays in June. So it's just in the month of June. Exact dates pending. We got to wait till we get approval. But that is the information. Doctor, I should update this. He got his doctorate. Dr. Sheets is our contact person for that. And there's a phone number and an email address if you have questions about health and PE, summer health and personal fitness. Dr. Sheets can help you out, and his information is there. So again, this is on page 6 of that course catalog. I knew I had it somewhere. Can we get Gwinnett County to adopt 2 or more years of marching band? That would be great. I would love that. That would be awesome for our students because we have a great marching band and we got great kids and they're getting a workout. But unfortunately, no, that's not a thing. I like it though. If you guys can, they listen to parents more than they do us sometimes. So if y'all can get that going, you do it in Fulton County. That's great. I love that. That's a great idea. You'd be a guider for AP courses and all that stuff. If you're talking about me specifically, um, I I coordinate all the AP exam registration and all of that kind of stuff. So I know a little bit about it, and I'm happy to answer questions if you want to shoot me an email. Again, my contact information is here. If nothing else, um, I can refer you to somebody who can answer your question if I can't. So again, Justin.Donahue at gcpsk12.org. Um, but yeah, I can at least tell you about the AP process. But the student's counselor is a good person. And again, the people who actually teach the classes and all that contact info is in that course catalog too. Yeah, I'm not a counselor. Um, but I can refer you to people if you if you need me to. Yeah, I would recommend reaching out to the counselor about that for sure. All right. Are there any other questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, thank you guys again so much for being here. If you have questions, I'm sure you will at some point. Please reach out. I'm happy to answer them. My contact info is here. And again, this will be posted to that course selection website. Um, there was one last question. Will DHS offer more than 3 foreign language paths? Um, so right now there is no plan for that, although we have kicked around some other options. There's been some discussion. I know Duluth Middle is starting to offer Korean, and we were talking about maybe trying to do that at the high school level. But it's just hard because you got to have a large enough group of kids that want to do it in order to justify, using a teacher on it. So it's hard to get another language off the ground. But there are discussions, yes. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. And again, February 4th, be there if you can. I'd love to say hey to you guys there. I'll be there. And I look forward to meeting all your kiddos next year. Have a great night.